Saji stepped out of Corey's room wearing some of Audra's clothes. Tor was sprawled out on Corey and Audra's couch, barely fitting on it. Everyone was happy to get some rest after staying up late to discuss their next moves. Unfortunately, they didn't come up with a solid solution. Mavis and Mr. Welton were working together, but keeping it a secret from their own people. The odds of them double-crossing each other were high, and both of them were unpredictable. Saji slept in Corey's bed after borrowing some more comfortable clothes from Audra. What drew her out of the room this morning was the smell of the breakfast that Audra and Cindy were preparing. The smell of the food was unfamiliar to Saji since she grew up in the forest of the Ankari. She walked over to the counter where they were cooking. "Thank you again for letting Tor and I stay here for the night," said Saji. "I am in your debt." "No need for any of that," Audra laughed. "We consider you one of our friends now. This is what friends do." Corey let me take her bed while she slept on the floor. I hope she wasn't too uncomfortable. Saji picked up one of the condiments on the counter and studied it like it was a new species. "Corey sleeps on the floor sometimes even when we don't have guests. She's a weirdo," said Audra. "Then again, sometimes she's a total diva about it too. I need my beauty sleep, Audra." "Please," said Cindy. "That girl can't get any more beautiful." Audra stepped away from the food she was making and folded her arms. "Are you attracted to my roomie?" "Not as attracted to her as I am to you," Cindy smiled and kissed Audra quickly on the lips, just recognizing that Corey has a lot going for her. "Yeah, true." Audra was smiling from the kiss. "It's annoying, isn't it?" "Where is Corey, anyway?" asked Saji. "I didn't see her in the room when I got up." "No matter what time she goes to sleep, Corey is usually up at the crack of dawn to go running. I think she only owns suits and clothes to run or jog in. That's why you had to borrow some of my clothes," explained Audra. "I don't know how she does it. There was a week she tried to get me to get up with her and go for a run. I think I lasted a day and a half." As the front door opened and Corey entered the house, Tor was starting to wake up on the couch. Zip bounced past him and greeted Corey at the door. She was sweating from her run. She placed the bottle of water she had with her on the counter and smiled at Audra and Cindy. "Why are you smiling? You never smile," said Audra. "It's freaking me out." "I smile," said Corey, offended. "This time it's because I'm happy you and Cindy made things official while I was away. It was a good time for you two to bond." "Oh, we bonded all right." Audra leaned her shoulder against Cindy and bounced off her a few times. "Sometimes 2 or 3 times a day." "Okay, yep, officially TMI." All the girls laughed, including Saji. Audra pointed at her with a big goofy smile on her face this time. Even Saji smiled. "Sorry, I have not laughed like this much outside of talking to Yulusa." Saji covered her mouth in embarrassment. "She's the only one that usually makes me laugh like this." "Don't apologize," said Corey. "Yeah, I said we're friends now. This is the type of stuff friends do," added Audra. "What is TMI?" asked Saji. "Means too much information. It was a term they used back on Earth, and people living on Novessa use it too," said Corey. "I see. I will have to share that with Yulusa," said Saji. "Speaking of, will Yulusa help us figure out what to do, or at least help us execute our plans once we come up with something?" Corey wanted to know all the pieces that were in play before she continued to brainstorm her ideas. Yulusa was a bit reluctant to involve humans and the guard, but she said she would help us. "We recommended you to her and she told us to come see what you think of the situation," Saji explained. "Good." Corey took another sip of her water. "While I was out for my run, I had an idea, but I don't know if it's the best way to go about this." Saji noticed Tor finally get up off the couch and start to make his way toward them. She moved closer to Corey to give him space before she spoke. "What did you have in mind?" "We need to get into the one place where everything is about to go down," said Corey. "The Welton Company HQ?" Audra followed along. "Isn't that suicide? Jagger warned you he would take you in if he saw you again." Threatening a member of the guard to take them in was dumb on Jagger's part. "The Welton Company isn't the law," said Corey. "Tell that to West Leader Falco," added Sydney. "He was at the studio yesterday speaking with Barris. I think he's going to come on as a guest soon. He hardly spoke about the guard, but he had an awful lot to say about Mr. Welton and how well his company is taking care of Novessa." "Worrisome," said Audra. "It's fine." Corey folded her arms. "I'll speak with Lieutenant Konda during our next training session and see what the best course of action for me would be. If she thinks I'm untouchable by the Welton Company, then I'll proceed as necessary." "You're going to do it anyway," said Audra. "I can tell by the look in your eyes. You're not going to let this idea go." "It may be our only chance to get to the bottom of this," replied Corey. "What about Jagger?" Tor was the one to ask the question as he joined the girls at the kitchen counter. He seemed a bit confused and upset about Mr. Welton and Mavis working together, and he said he was going to seek out Raisha. "What do you think we should do about that?" asked Corey. If the main members of the Welton Company start to turn on each other, that could definitely be beneficial to us. I think we should continue to try to sway Jagger to help us, said Tor. I think he could be a strong ally that could potentially get us inside the Welton Company HQ. It could work. Corey looked down at the counter, lost in thought. How would we get close enough to Jagger to convince him? When Corey looked back up at the group, everyone was staring at her. What? I mean, he did set you up on a date with himself at Real Magic, started Audra. No, Corey shook her finger in their faces. He only did that to ask me questions. You also said he's been following you around, said Cindy. Corey put both of her hands on the counter. That was to spy on me for Mr. Welton. It was just a suggestion. Relax. Audra put her arms up to signify herself backing off from the subject. There has to be another way for you to get into the Welton Company HQ. If Jagger confronts Raisha, there may be a fallout, said Corey. Really depends on how Raisha takes the news. Assuming she doesn't already know that Mr. Welton and Mavis have been... assuming she doesn't already know what Mr. Welton and Mavis have been doing. Tor nodded. You said she was the wild card of the bunch. She could do anything after finding out. She's a lot of things, but we know she's loyal to Mr. Welton, said Cindy. She will practically follow him blindly into anything, so I don't see it ending well for Jagger if he barges in and starts making accusations. If they hold Jagger prisoner the same way they're threatening to take us in, we may lose our chance of getting inside, added Tor. If he went straight from Real Magic to the Welton Company HQ, we may already be too late on that idea anyway. What if we draw them out, suggested Corey. We gather as many magic resources as we can, preferably from the Welton Company in the same way Mavis is doing. Then we use it as bait to draw out Mavis and at least some of the Welton Company. Then while they're dealing with that issue, we sneak into the Welton Company and confront Mr. Welton himself. It could work, said Saji. If the plan is to confront Mr. Welton, I think we should also keep tabs on the bridge at the edge. If we can learn Mr. Welton's routines going in and out of the barrier there, we may be able to confront him there, skip getting into the Welton Company HQ altogether. That actually sounds perfect. We draw out our biggest threats, then confront Mr. Welton at his most vulnerable. Get the answers we're looking for. Corey nodded. I'll reach out to the guard and do some research on where we can get our hands on some of these magical spheres from the Weltons. We may need to divide and conquer once I gather enough information, but I think this strategy will work. The whole time they were talking, Audra and Cindy continued to prepare food for everyone. They began placing plates in front of everyone standing at the counter. After breakfast, Audra smiled. Corey nodded. Right.